It's a single piece of linen cloth, about 14 feet long. For over 600 years of its known history, it has been an object of devotion, bitter controversy, and obsessive study. Today, it rests in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy. It's protected behind bulletproof glass in a climate-controlled case filled with inert gas. To the naked eye, it's not much to look at, just the faint, sepia-toned image of a man, front and back, his body covered in wounds. Some have called it the authentic burial shroud of Jesus of Nazareth, a priceless first-century relic. Others dismiss it as the most brilliant and stubborn fraud in human history, a masterpiece of medieval deception. This debate has raged for centuries, fueled by faith, skepticism, and science. But here's the strange part. Science, the very tool we rely on for definitive answers, has consistently failed to give us one. Every test, every analysis, has only ever made the mystery deeper. So what do you do when you have a mountain of conflicting data? You bring in a new kind of mind. The goal was simple. What if you could feed every piece of data ever collected on the cloth into an advanced analysis engine and let it finally solve the riddle? But the answer it would point to is anything but simple. Instead of answers, it would find layers of impossible qualities and radiation signatures that some researchers believe shouldn't exist. The question is no longer just, who made this? But what made this? Our story really kicks off in the clear light of documented history. The year is 1354. In the small town of Liéry, France, a knight named Geoffrey de Charny makes a startling announcement. He exhibits a long linen cloth that he claims is the authentic burial shroud of Christ. The image on it is faint, almost ethereal, but it clearly shows the front and back of a naked man, with marks consistent with a brutal crucifixion. The reaction is immediate and explosive. Pilgrims flock to see it, but the church itself is deeply divided. Just a few decades later, in 1389, the local bishop, Pier d'Arcis, writes a scathing memo to the Pope, calling the shroud a fake, cunningly painted, he said, and even claimed to know the artist. And right there the battle lines were drawn. For the next 500 years, the cloth was bought, sold, hidden during wars, and even narrowly saved from a fire in 1532 that left its distinctive pattern of symmetrical scorch marks. It was revered by some and reviled by others. But for half a millennium, the debate was mostly about history and faith. Then came 1898, and everything changed. An amateur Italian photographer, Secondo Pia, got permission to photograph the shroud. As he stood in his darkroom, watching the image appear on the glass photographic plate, he saw something that would redefine the entire mystery. The image on his plate, the negative, showed a stunningly clear and lifelike positive portrait of the man. The faint, ghostly figure on the linen was, in fact, a perfect photographic negative created hundreds of years before the invention of photography. This discovery was a bombshell. No painter works in negative. No medieval artist, no matter how clever, could have even conceived of such a thing. Suddenly, Bishop d'Arcis's claim of it being cunningly painted seemed completely inadequate. Pia's photograph revealed details invisible to the naked eye, wounds on the wrists, not the palms, which is consistent with Roman crucifixion methods, a puncture in the side, and dozens of small, deep wounds across the back, matching a Roman whip called a flagrum. The face was serene but battered, with a swollen cheek and what looked like a broken nose. The image wasn't just a picture of a crucified man, it was a forensic blueprint. The mystery of the Shroud of Turin had officially moved from history into the realm of science. The 20th century brought a lot of scientific interest, but the most significant effort was in 1978 with the Shroud of Turin Research Project, or STURP. This was a team of credentialed scientists, physicists, chemists, and imaging specialists who were given unprecedented round-the-clock access to the shroud for 5 straight days. They showed up in Turin with crates of equipment, determined to finally figure out how the image was formed. Their first and most basic goal was to find paint, any paint, pigment, or dye. They took samples, hit the cloth with X-rays, put it under powerful microscopes, and ran a whole battery of chemical tests. Their conclusion was unanimous and absolute. There is no paint, no pigments, no binders, no brush strokes. Whatever created this image, it wasn't a painting. It also wasn't a rubbing or a scorch. The image itself is unbelievably superficial. It only exists on the very top microfibers of the linen threads, a discoloration that's no more than a few hundred nanometers deep, a tiny fraction of the thickness of a single human hair. Nothing was added to the cloth. The cloth itself was chemically changed. Then they looked at the reddish stains that marked the wounds. Unlike the body image, these stains had soaked deep into the fibers. Under analysis, they tested positive for hemoglobin and were confirmed to be real, type AB human blood. Crucially, the evidence showed the blood was on the cloth before the image was formed. This meant a bloodied, wounded body was laid in this cloth. Then, through some unknown process, the image was created. But the most mind-bending discovery came from an Air Force scientist with a device called a VP8 image analyzer. This machine was designed to turn brightness data from photos into 3D maps. When it scanned a normal photo or a painting, it produced a distorted mess. But when it scanned the image on the shroud, a perfect, three-dimensional relief map of the man's body emerged. The brightness of the image wasn't random. It was a precise mathematical function. If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future where darkness corresponded to the distance between the body and the cloth. This 3D information is encoded right into the image, a property that no known painting or photograph has ever been shown to have. The SDURP team left Turin and published their final report, concluding that the image remains a mystery. They had figured out what the shroud wasn't, but what it was remained as elusive as ever. For years, the SDURP findings, no paint, real blood, 3D information, seemed to point to something unexplainable. But in 1988, the mystery seemed to be solved once and for all. 3 of the world's top radiocarbon dating labs were given samples cut from a corner of the shroud. Carbon dating, the gold standard for figuring out the age of organic stuff, would finally give a definitive answer. And it did. The results were clear. The labs dated the linen to between 1260 and 1390 AD. The date was a perfect match for the shroud's first appearance in recorded history. The conclusion seemed inescapable. The shroud was medieval. It was a forgery for many. The case was closed. But for others, this just started a new, more complex mystery. How could a medieval forger create an object with properties that 20th century science couldn't explain or even replicate? The contradiction was jarring. So scientists started looking closer at the carbon dating result itself, and they found problems. The main issue was the sample. It was taken from the single most handled and repaired corner of the cloth. Later analysis of leftover material even revealed cotton fibers interwoven with the linen, which aren't found on the main body of the shroud, suggesting it came from an expertly rewoven medieval patch. Then there's the contamination issue from the fire of 1532, which some scientists argue could have fundamentally altered the carbon ratio, making the cloth appear much younger than it really is. For decades, the debate was a stalemate. The carbon date was the primary argument against the shroud's authenticity, while the unexplainable image was the primary argument for it. Then new technologies emerged. In 2022, a team of Italian scientists pioneered a new dating technique called wide-angle X-ray scattering, or WAXS. Instead of measuring radioactive carbon, this method measures the natural, age-related breakdown of the linen's cellulose structure. After testing their method on samples of known ages, they applied it to a thread from the shroud. The result was stunning. Their analysis concluded the shroud was not 700 years old, but closer to 2,000 years old. Now we had 2 gold standard scientific methods giving 2 completely contradictory results. One places the cloth in medieval France, the other in 1st century Judea. The mystery was deeper than ever. This brings us back to the present. With a mountain of conflicting, high-quality data, the problem isn't about collecting new information. It's about making sense of what we already have. It's the perfect task for a new kind of thinking. Imagine you feed every last piece of data into a sophisticated AI analysis engine, every report, every scan, every conflicting date. The goal isn't to pick a side, but to find one single, coherent model that explains all of it. What would happen? First, the system would try to find a way a medieval artist could have made it. It would likely fail. No known combination of medieval techniques can reproduce the superficiality, the negative polarity, and the 3D encoding all at once. It would then try to find a natural phenomenon, like a simple scorch from a heated statue. But popular theories like that don't quite work either. They fail to account for the unique 3D information or the lack of heat damage. Instead of a simple answer, an analysis like this highlights the impossible paradoxes. It shows you that the conclusion that the Shroud is a 13th century forgery is inconsistent with the physical and chemical data. But it also shows that the conclusion that it's a simple, natural image on a 2,000-year-old cloth is inconsistent with the image's bizarre properties. The only way to reconcile all the data points, the age, the image properties, even the contested carbon date, is to consider a hypothesis that sounds like science fiction. Some researchers have proposed that the image was formed by a brief, intense burst of radiation emanating from the body itself. Theoretically, such an event could create the superficial photographic negative image with its 3D information. A burst of neutrons, specifically, could also have altered the carbon-14 level in the cloth, potentially explaining why the 1988 test gave a medieval date. This is, to be clear, just a hypothesis, a physics event for which we have no modern parallel, and it's far from settled, with recent studies proposing that clever medieval techniques using bas-relief statues could still be the answer. The machine doesn't give us a solution, it just shows us the profound depth of the puzzle. This kind of analysis doesn't solve the mystery of the Shroud of Turin. It makes it infinitely more profound. It takes all the separate threads, the history, the chemistry, the contradictory dating, and weaves them into a single, stark conclusion. The cloth's properties don't seem to fit with any known forgery technique, and its formation may point to an event that science cannot currently explain. The debate is no longer simply authentic versus fake. The question has become far stranger. We now have to ask what could create a photographic negative with 3D encoding on a cloth that holds evidence of being both 700 and 2,000 years old. What do you think? Is this the work of a genius forger who somehow anticipated future technology, a natural phenomenon we haven't discovered yet, or something else entirely? Let us know your theories in the comments. For centuries, this 14-foot length of linen has held its secret. We can approach this ancient enigma with the most powerful analytical tools of the 21st century, hopping for a clear answer between relic and forgery. But the patterns point not to the hand of an artist, but to the very fibers of the cloth. Any deep analysis finds not a medieval painting, but a data map of a physical event that defies our current understanding. Instead of solving the mystery, our technology has only deepened it, transforming a historical question into a profound scientific and philosophical one. The Shroud remains what it has always been, a perfect mystery. And the ultimate question it poses isn't just about how it was made, but about the nature of the event it may have recorded.
This book is your beginner's guide to understanding Scripture. Find peace, build relationships, and discover purpose in today's world. Ready to decode the Bible? Find Bible Decoded available on Amazon now.
If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos.